Hey guys, how's it going? My name is Grisha, and today we are going to be going over the hierarchy of creator actualization. Similar to Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of self-actualization, this is a reimagining of what actualization means in the pretense of creation. And when I say creator, when you read the word creator, the first thing that might pop into your mind is content creation. And while this is one of the avenues that we talk about here, it's not just about creating content. It's about creating the life that you truly dream of and creating really the reality that you want to be living in. Reality is a co-creation. It is something that we are either participating in on autopilot or we are participating in from a awakened place, moving through life with intention. And the reason that I created this is the culmination of really 10 to 15 years of my own inner work, my own creation journey, and transforming my life and wanting to take control of my reality and being able to create it in a way that I felt like was not only peaceful but really aligned with the kind of person I wanted to be. And I wanted to start off with a quote that I absolutely love, and it says, "In each new epoch, perhaps every generation or every few years, if the conditions in which we live change that rapidly, it becomes necessary to rethink and reformulate what it takes to establish autonomy in consciousness." And that comes from the book Flow. And the reason that this is the background for this work that we do together is because as we grow and as society advances at such a rapid pace, it becomes really important to rethink, reformulate, and build and create frameworks that allow us to adapt rapid advancements in AI, things like the creator economy, entrepreneurship, becoming a one-person business. A lot of the old frameworks that exist might not necessarily be applicable in the way that they imagined it because of the way that our society is evolving so rapidly. The basis of creator actualization is that inner work informs our external success, and deeper and higher levels of external success create situations where we have to then do deeper and greater inner work on ourselves. And so it's this never-ending spiral that we find ourselves in, where the better we become as individuals, we find that we have harder and harder and more complex challenges and obstacles that we have to overcome, which then involves doing deeper and more profound inner work on ourselves. So this is what the hierarchy of creator actualization looks like. Don't worry about reading all of this at once. I'm gonna go through each one of these pillars one by one, but I wanted to give you a overarching view of what it looks like as a whole. And you can see that we have 6 pillars, the bottom being the foundation of existence, identity and authenticity, expression and residence, creation and contribution, integration and embodiment, and then finally we have reality co-creation. And a lot of these terms are not necessarily exclusive to just doing inner work, but are very closely related to doing outer work as well. So starting off with the first pillar, what we have here is the foundation of existence. And the reason that we start off with the foundation of existence is because it is essentially the first ground level that we have to start out with, is creating a safety. Right? We have to feel safe in our body, in our internal and external environment, to allow ourselves then to build on top of that to essentially become actualized creators. So some of the obstacles that you might face in this place are going to be things like low energy, poor health and diet, struggling with your attention span. Your reality is really ruled a lot by your subconscious and your unconscious beliefs and desires. You might be struggling financially or unfulfilled in a job. You might be trapped in cycles of negative behavior and harmful behaviors. And you might have an overarching victim mentality, a feeling of hopelessness, and a lack of accountability for yourself. And the really important thing to remember, not just for this pillar, but for every pillar, is that every single obstacle that we face when it comes to the pillars of hierarchy of actualization is not really an obstacle in the sense that we cannot get through it. It's actually the way in which we need to move forward. Marcus Aurelius has this quote where he says, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." And that's really one of the core foundational themes of creator actualization, is the obstacles that we face are not supposed to tell us that we're traveling down the wrong way, or we're struggling, or our life is not worth living. It is actually quite the opposite. It is literally the way in which we need to move forward in order to actually actualize our highest potential. So our mind goes inward, right? In order to actually work through the subconscious and the limiting beliefs, we have to travel inward. So we have to become aware of the limiting beliefs that we have, the subconscious patterns, the shadow material. As Carl Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will rule your life and you will call it fate. And that's such an important aspect of this, because without awareness about this, the subliminal and subconscious aspects of our identity that are ruling our life, we really are navigating with two hands behind our back and a blindfold on. Next, we have the body is going to be an outward expression of establishing routines, fitness, sleep, and baseline health. Our spirit is going to be finding safety in connection, self-trust, and belonging. And our vocation is going to be creating time and space to actually have a basic financial runway or some form of stability. So similar to all of those obstacles that I mentioned initially, you're basically going to look at each one and figure out how it is you need to be moving through that obstacle in order to achieve the awareness of your limiting beliefs, establishing those routines, building safety and connection, and creating the time and space to actually build a financial runway of stability. And this is where so many creators get trapped, right? And again, creators not in the sense of just content creation, but co-creators of reality. So people in general, since we are all really co-creators of reality, this is where a lot of people get stuck. Is they try to build a business, or they try to build a body, or they try to establish routines without first having this foundation of existence in place. So for example, if you want to start going to the gym and you feel like you don't have time, a place that you might go is look inward and say, well, where am I actually spending a lot of my time? And when you audit that, you might find that you're actually spending a lot of time on things that don't matter to you or shouldn't matter to you, because they're not necessarily aligned with the goal that you have in mind. Another thing that a lot of people really struggle with is working a 9-to-5 that they hate or that they feel unfulfilled in. And one of the most important reframes that you can apply to a 9-to-5 or a job that you don't actually enjoy is that you are establishing a baseline for financial stability, which is, again, a foundational part of existence. Because without money and without the feeling of safety that you have, or creating that feeling of safety, risk feels 10 times greater, and risk is integral to growth, right? Without actually taking risks in your life, it is very difficult, if not impossible, to take that next step or to take that upward leap to actually become the version of yourself that you want to become. So every single obstacle that you face in your life offers an opportunity for you to travel through that obstacle. Now, I know the other thing that a lot of people struggle with is, where do I start, right? If you have all of these obstacles that you now need to tackle, we often get so overwhelmed that we procrastinate, or we get stuck in analysis paralysis. And the solution to this is unfortunately really, really simple. And it's both unfortunate and really fortunate that it's simple, because it's really to just pick one. You just pick one obstacle that you are facing that you either feel intuitively is the biggest obstacle for you, or that you feel is the most pressing in your life, and you go all in on solving it. And the reason that this is so important is because it creates momentum. And as soon as you have momentum, you are able to then pour the success that you find in either working on your subconscious beliefs, working on your body, establishing safety and connection, self-trust and belonging. Anytime you open a door and you walk through it, more doors begin to open. The path reveals itself as you walk it. Finally, one thing that I want to mention that we'll talk about a little bit towards the end of this is not a checklist. Of course, it's recommended to have as many of these things checked as possible before you progress, but it's not to say that you need to absolutely have your dream body or absolutely be in oneness with all of the universe before you move on to the next iteration or step of the hierarchy of existence. That's, again, just another really quick way to get trapped in analysis paralysis, perfectionism, and procrastination. Allow yourself to also move through the other pillars of the hierarchy when you feel ready. Moving on to the next pillar, it's going to be identity and authenticity. And the reason that this one comes after the foundation of existence is because after you have now established a baseline feeling of safety, of certainty, of routine, you free your mind up to think about other things. You free your mind up to think about, well, who am I, right? And why am I that way? And who do I actually want to be? And what are my values? And what are the values that I've adopted from society or from my parents? And so this aspect of the pillar of existence is really about figuring out who you are and who you are not. So some of the obstacles that you might face during this phase is things like having an unclear identity, imposter syndrome, a fear of being seen or of being judged, and over-identification with external labels like your job title or other societal standards. Comparison and scattered focus, just chasing as many ideas and as many avenues as you possibly can. You might have a attachment to perfectionism or a fear of failure. And you might be seeking validation from audience or metrics or other types of external systems. So moving through the different aspects of your life, in your mind, again, you're moving inward. You want to clarify your values. What are adopted and what are the autonomous values that you are choosing for yourself to have? Right? You want to be able to accept that the uncertainty of who you are is not a fatal flaw in your existence. It is literally a part of the process of rediscovering and recreating who you are from the ground up. Essentially shedding away all the layers of who you are not, the version of you that no longer serves the reality that you are trying to create. And your body, you want to externalize the habits and routines that you established for yourself in the first pillar. So what that looks like is actually stepping into the gym or actually doing the routines and the habits that you created for yourself. Listening to your body and figuring out where your energy levels are going. Why do you feel drained? Is it because of diet? Is it because of a vitamin deficiency? Is it because of the people and the circumstances around you? Is it because of chronic stress? You want to look at your body as part of the vessel that carries you through this really demanding work. From the spiritual side of things, you want to go inward. You want to begin integrating the shadows and the authenticity that you discovered for yourself in both the mind and the body, as well as in the foundations of existence. The subconscious programs that have been running your life cannot just be dropped. They have to be actively worked through things like shadow work, journaling, mindfulness, presence, therapy. And the key word here is integration. You're not meant to just cut parts of yourself off because you deem them unlovable. The point is integrating them into yourself and as a part of yourself so that they may naturally dissolve. And through doing this, you're able to drop the masks that you have been wearing for so long. And then lastly, we have vocation, which is going to be an upward expression. You're going to want to start creative expression, right? You're going to want to start maybe creating posts, sharing your writing a little bit, testing your voice, sharing imperfectly. And the reason that you're going to start slowly doing this is because, again, you're now establishing a level of certainty in who you are, or at the very least, making some level of peace with the uncertainty of who you are and sharing that. So the third pillar is going to be expression and resonance, right? This is the outward phase of sharing yourself, resonating and attracting, and your messaging becomes magnetic because it's backed by the inner truth that you've created for yourself in the previous two pillars, right? Imposter syndrome is still going to linger, of course, at this point, and really imposter syndrome will always linger because you are constantly going to be evolving when you adapt this framework into your life. But the whole point of this is to begin to externalize your inner work, right? And again, this does not exclusively mean only in content. This could be in creating a business, in doing the travel plans that you've always wanted to do, in looking for a partner. So now with the mind, this is the first time that we're going to be using our mind outwardly, right? We're going to want to learn how to translate the insights that we've discovered about ourselves into clear stories, frameworks, and essentially begin to share the understanding that we have created for ourselves externally with loved ones, with the world, through our content, or whatever it is that we're going to be creating. For our body, we want to be able to use our presence and the vitality that we have to fuel the visibility and the creative flow. So what this means is essentially your body, again, is the vessel that allows you to do this type of creative work. So if you're always tired, if you're always drained, if you're not fueling yourself properly, if you're not learning how to be present or sit with yourself or somatically listen to the different aspects of your body, you are going to feel as though your mind is in one place and your body is another. So being able to bring your body into your life as another form of intelligence is extremely important. For your spirit, this is where you're going to step into community resonance, healing your fear of visibility and rejection. It is extremely important to find community. And the reason that we do this work with the mind and the body and the sharing and translating our insights is because that's how we find community. You find community by sharing a version of yourself, or the version of yourself that feels so authentic in that moment that other people begin to recognize themselves in you. Think about any person that you look up to, any person that you admire, any person that you feel as though understands life or understands maybe even you. It's because they have shared parts of themselves that have made you go, huh, I've thought like that before. That reminds me of me. Your community will naturally begin to arise. If you cannot find a community, start one. I'm going to say that again. If you cannot find a community, start one. Because I promise you, there are going to be other people that are out there that are looking for either the same information or have been through the same things or are looking to create the same things as you are. And so just because you're lost or uncertain, or you look around and you don't really see anybody doing the things you're doing, that doesn't mean you're lost. That doesn't mean that you're not able to fit in. That means you're pioneering, which is an incredible place to be. And then lastly, I hate the word niche. I'm using niche as an opportunity for you to understand that your identity becomes a quote-unquote niche. The insights, the stories that you've created for yourself, they are what become the niche, or the message that magnetizes the right audience to you. When I say niche, or anytime you hear me say niche, it's not like cooking for moms, right? It is more than that. It is an identity that you express and that you externalize into the world that allows you to feel understood and allows other people to understand you, and through that understand themselves on a deeper level. And then you begin creation and contribution. And this is the first upward full leap of contributing to others and building something bigger than yourself. So if you've been making content for a long time, or even if you're just starting off, or if you have an established business and you feel burnt out, the creation and contribution aspect of this is so important to what it means to live a good life. You have solved problems for yourself that have allowed you to be in a place where you can now create and contribute to others. And what it is that you're going to be creating and contributing is two things, is the fact that you've had similar problems and the fact that you have solved them. And the reason that this is so important is because you're now going to start synthesizing your knowledge into frameworks. You're going to start thinking systematically, well, okay, I used to be like this and now I'm like this. What exactly did I do to get to this point? And how can I help others do the same? And the reason that I get so excited about this is because I've been through this journey. This framework, this hierarchy of creator actualization, is quite literally the epitome of all of my inner work. And now I feel as though I've been through this process, so I've synthesized it into a framework, I've created a system, and now I want to help other people do the same. And you can already see the way that I'm talking, the way that I'm expressing myself, maybe even from the beginning of this video, is different, right? Because in the beginning, I still had a little bit of uncertainty. This is the first time I've done this kind of video. But now, as I'm sort of getting into it a little bit more, I'm beginning to understand, I'm excited. You know, my energy feels high. I feel as though there's something flowing through me because I'm not an imposter. I've lived through this. And the other really important aspect of this is things like burnout. You don't want to be constantly creating, contributing. Consumption is just as important as creation, and rest is just as important as creation. The reason that I'm able to create and contribute is because I consume things that fuel that creation, both in my mind and in my body. I consume food that I know nourishes me. I consume content that nourishes my mind. And yes, I still doom scroll on Instagram every once in a while and send my friends, memes of cats speaking in Spanish. We're all guilty of it. But the point is, at the end of the day, creation is just about as much of consumption as consumption is used for your creation. So next we have spirit, which is really going to be about anchoring all of this work that you've done into a meaning and purpose. Your life now becomes a natural extension of your creation and consumption. My life revolves around consuming thought-provoking content that allows me to contribute to other people's lives through the things that I create. That has become my purpose. And again, through anything that you create in your life, meaning is not something that you find. Meaning is not something that, you lift up a rock and then it's like you have a puddle of meaning there. It is quite literally a creation. When people ask you, like, what's the meaning of life? It's to create a life of meaning. Ultimately, what you want to do is be able to monetize this and exchange value with other people. And this is one of the most difficult things that people run into when it comes to believing that they are worthy enough to charge for their services or for their knowledge or for whatever it is that they're trying to create. And there's this story that I'm probably going to butcher, but it's about Picasso, and he's sitting at a cafe and one of the waiters recognizes him and he says, "Oh my God, you're Pablo Picasso, like, can you please paint me something or draw me something?" And he says, "Okay, no problem." And so he takes a napkin and he doodles something for 5 minutes and he hands it to him and he says, "That'll be $30,000. And the waiter looks at him and he goes, "What, $30,000? I don't have that kind of money. It took you 5 minutes. Like, what the hell?" And Picasso looks at him and he says, "No, it took me 30 years to be able to do that in 5 minutes and to charge you $30,000 for it." So anytime you begin to create something and monetize it, that's the type of mentality that you need to have, is think about how much work you have put into yourself, into your life, into your inner work, into the outer work, into the pillars that you have climbed to allow yourself to even be in a place to think about charging or to fear charging. Second to last, we have integration and embodiment. And so this is where we finally begin to fuse the inward and the upward. And this is essentially where your life starts to turn into a spiral of sorts where everything feeds into itself. So your knowledge has now become a tool that you use to essentially live. You have now become a vessel for creation, a vessel for expression, a vessel for what it means to be yourself. And another thing that's really important about this stage is, for the previous stages, the mind has been predominantly what has been in charge. And in integration and embodiment, you start to also understand that your body is very, very, very much a part of your mind, and your mind is very much a part of your body. So what I mean by that is intuition becomes what leads your life. It doesn't become a question of what's the right thing to do, oh, I'm not sure, oh, I'm scared of making the wrong choice. Your intuition becomes what leads you and what you choose to listen to. And it's not just intuition up here, it's intuition in your body. You start to listen to the signals that your body sends you, and those gut feelings are actually a lot more intuitive of an understanding of your circumstances in your life than you think in your mind. Alan Watts had a quote where he said, "You are infinitely more intelligent in your intuition than you are in your conscious thought." And that's a really, really important quote that you need to remember, because when you get to this stage of integration and embodiment, your mind sort of takes a back seat. And when I say mind, I mean the conscious thinking mind, because the thinking mind, and especially the subconscious, is not logical. It's still ruled by a lot of the old programming. Even though you've been doing shadow work, those things never really fully leave you. You just decide to not listen to them anymore, but they still have a bit of a voice in your mind. The only thing that's going to overpower that is your body and the intuition of your body. And finally, we have reality co-creation. And this is where the upward spiral is complete. And when I say complete, I simply just mean this level of transformation. It's not necessarily about reaching a certain level or reaching a certain point, as we'll talk about in the next slide. This entire process is a spiral. And so reality co-creation is really about living a life that feels like a authentically true expression of your internal understanding of who you are and what your life is supposed to be. It's where your external creation is a match to the internal world that you have now cultivated for yourself. And the reason that this is so important, and what I mentioned about these spiral dynamics, is because you are going to constantly look at this hierarchy and understand that there are going to be days when you wake up and you're like, I thought I got rid of this subconscious programming, or I thought that I was done past this. Or you reach a new level of success where now you're seeing so many clients or you're making so much content that you feel burnt out. And so now you have to revisit those foundations of existence and say, okay, well, now I need to understand what my vitality looks like and what exercise looks like at a time where I'm so busy that I can't prioritize it anymore. Or you say, oh, I'm constantly so tired and I don't know why, and you have to revisit your diet. Or you say, my relationships are sliding and I actually would really like to get married, but I'm so busy with work. And so now you have to question your identity about what it is that you actually want. And so this is what I mean by this being a framework for the existence of your life. It's not just something that you're going to walk through one time and be like, I've reached unity of consciousness, I'm done, I'm not going to reincarnate anymore, I'm out of here. It's really about the idea that you are traveling a spiral, And whenever you revisit a place that you've been to before, it's not that you're in the same place, it's a familiar place, but on a higher level of the spiral, which brings with it a higher level of awareness. And that is really the most important part that I can mention to you about any of this work that you will ever do, is you have to look at it as a spiral, not as a loop. Because one of the things that a lot of people get really discouraged by is they keep running into the same problems, the same bad habits, the same situations and circumstances with different people, and they're like, I thought I learned this lesson already, I thought I was done with this, I thought I was through with this. But the very fact that you understand that you have been here before is a sign that you have made progress, and it is a sign that you are now back here from a higher level of awareness to do deeper work and to deepen your understanding of what it means to be yourself at this current phase in your life. So that is what the hierarchy of creator actualization is all about. I really hope you enjoyed. Again, this is my first video that I've ever made like this. I might reshoot it, I might post it as it is, and live within the truth of what this is all about, is posting imperfectly and learning and iterating as you go along. So we'll see. I have a community that I'm going to be building that is all about creator actualization. You can find that with the link in the bio. You can subscribe to my newsletter as well, where I do much deeper dives on topics like this as well. And as always, please feel free to subscribe. Feel free to send this to somebody that you think might benefit from it. And good luck. I'm very, very happy to be walking on this journey with you. And I hope you have a great day.